Housing Choice Voucher Program, sometimes referred to as Section 8, provides families and individuals an equal opportunity for a place to call home. However, many landlords are unfamiliar with the voucher process and how it works. So in today's video, we walk landlords through the requirements and steps of participating in Virginia's Section 8 program. Hey everyone, it's Alyssa here from Bay Property Management Group. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on exclusive content. With that said, let's jump into today's video. The Housing Choice Voucher Program is a federally backed program that provides affordable housing to individuals and families that meet certain income requirements. In Virginia, these subsidized vouchers get distributed through the state and local programs under the Virginia Housing and Development Agency, or VHDA. Thus, through these programs, qualified prospects can choose from a wider range of housing options not otherwise available. The main question landlords often have is, do they have to accept housing vouchers? In Virginia, the answer is yes under certain conditions. According to legislation passed in 2020, landlords in Virginia with more than 4 rental units cannot refuse to rent to a tenant solely based on a housing voucher. That said, regardless of where your rental property is located, knowing the law is critical. When prospective tenants ask if Section 8 vouchers are allowed, landlords must realize the decision may not always be up to them. In fact, more and more states and local jurisdictions are protecting renters against discrimination based on the source of income. Fair housing laws protect individuals and families from residential housing discrimination. For example, Virginia has made it illegal to discriminate against anyone based on the following factors, otherwise known as protected classes, which include race, color, religion, national origin, sex, elderliness, family status, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, veteran status, and source of income. Any discrimination, real or implied, could see landlords facing legal battles with potentially devastating financial consequences. So, to ensure that does not happen to you or to your rental properties, follow these tips. Number 1, consistency is key. No matter the prospect, it is essential that landlords have a consistent standard to evaluate, qualify, and respond to tenants. Additionally, any attempt to make the application or screening process intentionally more difficult for a voucher client would violate state law. So, the bottom line is treat everyone fairly and treat everyone the same, thus helping to avoid claims of discrimination based on any of the protected classes. Number 2, steer clear of steering. Steering is when a landlord or leasing agent attempts to restrict a tenant's housing options by directing them to a certain unit or a certain area of the community. This is easily an argument for discrimination. It should not be a policy landlords attempt in their rental property business. A vacant unit is a vacant unit and must be offered to any qualified applicant. Tip number 3, do not abandon standard qualifications. While landlords cannot refuse to rent to tenants solely based on them having a housing voucher, that does not mean these individuals are not held to the same standard as all other applicants. Therefore, voucher applicants may still face rejection for other valid reasons, such as a negative prior rental history, problematic criminal background, or poor payment history. And number 4, avoid any discrimination. Source of income is far from the only protected class under fair housing law. Therefore, landlords must familiarize themselves with specific restrictions in their area. Then, once aware of all applicable laws, ensure that staff and printed or digital media reflect full compliance with fair housing standards. The process of Section 8 in Virginia is a series of steps that rely on cooperation between the tenant, landlord, and housing program to all do their part. First step are the landlord responsibilities, which include but are not limited to provide a safe and clean living environment, enforce and comply with the landlord responsibilities outlined in the lease, comply with the terms of the housing assistant payments or the HAP contract, maintain the rental property per HUD's housing quality standards, coordinate with the local housing agency to inspect the property using the inspection checklist form, and correct any issues found in the housing inspection report within the required time frame. The rental property must meet all guidelines before the initial lease and then be re-inspected annually. Moving right along, we have the tenant responsibilities, which include a minimum of 1 household applicant must be a U.S. citizen or have eligible immigration status, providing truthful and verifiable information on all documentation, not engage in any illegal, illicit, or violent activities, abide by all terms of the residential lease agreement, report any changes to household members or income per the program rules, and voucher holders must recertify annually, along with allowing the Housing Authority to conduct inspections as needed. Understanding each party's role to participate in the Housing Choice Voucher Program is key, but it's not the end. The voucher process involves several steps along with required paperwork. The first step is to establish the rent. Housing programs in Section 8 in Virginia base rental offers on fair market rates. These are provided annually by the Department of Housing and Urban Development and establish rent based on a property's number of bedrooms. From there, various Section 8 programs will use this information along with local data to set housing payment standards within 90 to 110% of the published FMRs. Next, and most important, is to screen and select a Section 8 tenant. All Section 8 tenants in Virginia must pass pre-screening through the housing office. Furthermore, all tenants, whether market or voucher, must meet the Landlord standard qualification criteria. In addition to verifying income or voucher status, property owners should screen for the following: a criminal background check, creditworthiness check, rental history verification, and landlord or other personal references. Once you have a tenant, submit an RTA or request for tenancy approval to the housing office. When a voucher tenant is interested in occupying a property, they cannot move forward until the property goes through the housing approval process. Therefore, the first step is to submit a request for tenancy approval form. This provides the housing office with important information regarding your rental property, including, but not limited to, the property address, proposed rental rate, anticipated lease start date, a list of any included utilities, a landlord contact information, and tenant contact information, plus a signature of all parties. The next step is to complete and pass a housing inspection. Once the housing office processes the request for tenancy approval, an inspection of the property is required. Therefore, the inspector will verify that the property meets all local building codes and the housing office's standards of habitability. From there, a few things could happen. Number 1, the property passes inspection. If the inspection goes off without a hitch, the tenant and landlord can continue moving forward towards a signed lease. Keep in mind, the Housing Authority will re-inspect and recertify the property annually to ensure those standards are being maintained. Number 2, the property could fail. If the unit fails, the inspector will provide a list of items to correct within a set time frame. So long as the landlord completes the tasks and passes a secondary inspection, everyone can move forward with the process. But lastly, the landlord is unable to complete repairs. If the property fails and the landlord cannot complete the required task list, the housing office may deem the property unfit for the voucher program. If you successfully make it to the end of the process, it's time to collect the deposits and the monthly rent. Landlords are responsible for collecting the security deposit direct from either the tenant or another agency that has agreed to pay the deposit on their behalf. Typically, a tenant is responsible for a percentage of the monthly rent, while the housing program covers the remainder. As a landlord, it is your responsibility to ensure that the tenant is aware of how to pay their portion and to follow through and ensure it is received. Any other funds to cover the remainder of the monthly rent come direct from the housing office via direct deposit to the owner. In addition to helping the community, there are several benefits for landlords participating in the Housing Choice Voucher Program. These include a guaranteed income. Generally, the subsidy covers 50 to 70% of the monthly rent. Therefore, since this portion comes direct from the housing office, landlords can rest assured that they will receive that amount each month. Pre-screened tenants. To qualify for a voucher program, tenants must meet and adhere to Section 8 requirements. This includes passing a criminal background check and income verification. While this does not take the place of a landlord's own screening, it is an added layer of protection. And regular inspections. Depending on your perspective, regular housing inspections could be a blessing or a curse. However, these inspections provide insight into how the tenants maintain the unit and ensure they do not cause excessive damage. That said, there are also a few drawbacks that landlords should plan for, which could include varying standards. To qualify for Section 8 in Virginia, the property must meet the program's habitability standards. That said, While a standard of habitability is required for renting regardless, the state and landlords may differ in how they view those standards. This may or may not become an issue if the state inspection requires landlords to make upgrades, changes, or repairs that can add up fast. And no guarantees. Whether renting to a voucher or market tenant, there are no guarantees. It is true that Section 8 tenants are pre-screened and must comply with the lease and the program to retain their voucher, but things do still happen. So if the tenant is expelled from the housing program, landlords are left with an occupant who cannot afford the rent and may need to be evicted if they don't leave voluntarily. Navigating housing voucher program requirements, paperwork, inspections, and fair housing laws is a daunting process for landlords. That said, renting to either market tenants or participants of Section 8 in Virginia is a lot of work. Thankfully, owners can always reach out to professional property management firms who can bridge the gap between tenants, landlords, and the housing offices to efficiently secure the ideal tenant. For more advice on a variety of other issues important to the rental industry, subscribe to the Bay Property Management Group channel, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss out on exclusive content. Also, be sure to check out our blog via the link in the description below for tips on housing vouchers, along with everything from home maintenance to financing your first income property purchase. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up or leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.